the forest, the snow crisp and clear. The birch ghosts in the pine trees, we hunt other than deer. The frost is white upon my skin, the air is cold, the air is thin. Run through the valley and over the hill, it's the unforgettable thrill of hunting moomin, of hunting moomin. Are heavy as well as our packs. Our eyes scan the ground, will we soon find their tracks? The frost is white upon my skin, the air is cold, the air is thin. Run through the valley and over the hill, it's the unforgettable thrill of hunting moomin, hunting moomin. Back at the cottage, clean ourselves with steam. Resting in front of the fire, I soon fall into a dream. The frost is white upon my skin, the air is cold, the air is thin. Run through the valley and over the hill, it's the unforgettable thrill. Frost is white upon my skin, the air is cold, the air is thin. Run through the valley and over the hill, it's the unforgettable thrill of hunting moomin, of hunting moomin. Hello and welcome back if you visited the first two streams, or welcome if this is the first time that you're joining me and the Orthoverse in the Orthoverse Is Doomed live stream. At the moment we don't have very many people here, which is not unexpected. Streaming turns out to be incredibly difficult to get an audience for. And I think that's probably partially, or maybe even mainly, down to the fact that you have to book a time in order to actually be there live. So fortunately it is recorded and other people can go and watch. And when I checked the statistics for the previous two streams, it turns out that about the same number of people who were online went and watched the video within the next 2 hours, and by the end we had actually I think 8 times the replay views that we had for live participants, which I can understand. It's a bit of a shame because it's nice to have a lot of people here asking questions, especially since they provide me with a prompt as to things to talk about. But anyway, I'm here as usual. I've got a slightly snuffly nose and a slightly sore throat. I think that's mainly down to the fact that Finland is currently in the middle of winter, and as a result it's really, really dry. The air has got, I think the humidity is 0, so that does tend to not treat the lungs and the sinuses particularly well. But on the plus side, the air is really pure, so there's always an upside to every downside. Well, most downsides. Some downsides there's nothing that you can see to find an advantage for. So hello the other guy, and hello Infotrix. Nice to see you both here. Hopefully my sound is working and I've got everything set up, and I'm gonna switch to the... Oh, actually before, I'm going to go back to the full cam left because I can point to my book down here, which I have conveniently got showing in the bottom left hand corner. You know, a bit of product placement. Let people know that I do have a book out. It's called Move Over Brokers, Here Comes the Blockchain, and it explains blockchain in an understandable manner and an entertaining manner, using analogies without trivializing the topic, because most of the blockchain books out there are either incredibly technical and rather tricky to understand if you don't have the technical background, or they kind of gloss over the significant and difficult parts in order to spin a story about how wonderful blockchain is and how it's going to revolutionize the world. So this one should appeal to everybody, and you'll find, regardless of whether you're very technically knowledgeable or whether you are more of the artistic type, then you'll find something in there that will help you understand blockchain better. And as I said, it's actually an amusing book too. People have said that in places it's even funny. So Leos, I see that you're in Austria according to your comment, and it's -20. It's actually warmer here at the moment. It's -3 to -4, and we had a 3-day thaw when it went up to 4 or 5 degrees. So all the snow melted away and then more fell. Yeah, not as bad as in Austria. I guess given your recent live journal posts, Leos, that you're on another motorcycling trip. I hope not, if it's -20 and there's a lot of snow. Anyway, let's move to seeing the Orthoverse. And as usual, as soon as I enter the Orthoverse, it is night. And that makes things a little bit gloomy. I did make the night a third as long as the days, but I think I'm going to have to change that because it does seem to be awfully dark an awful lot of the time. Right, I'm going to just head off to Fangwanina, my land just north of the Orthohenge. I've made a bit of progress with it actually. I've built a watchtower over here on the left, because I can copy my original son's build, and he copied a tutorial and modified it. And then there's a nice little passageway up there, and then I even added some slabs that allow you to get to the top and have a look out. So it's of course it's important for a castle to have a watchtower. Excuse me. Right, and we also get a lovely view over the actual castle compound itself. So when I started building, I thought the 6x6 chunks, as they're called, each chunk in the voxel world is 16 by 16 blocks, so that's 96 by 96 blocks. I thought that would be pretty sizable, but it turns out that if you do a little bit of building every day, then over time the whole place starts to actually look a bit crowded. So I think I've filled up about a third of it so far, and I can see someone running along and jumping too. Let's find out who that is. It's the other guy, of course. He was standing up on a ledge up there at some point, I think. It appears that his hobby is to climb up on buildings. So I hadn't even noticed that if you come up here, you can jump on the roof, and then you can jump up there and do something sacrilegious, namely climb on the church. And this actually makes me notice that there is a gap here. We better fix that right away. Hop, there we go. Roof fixed. So I will save that. So one of the things about playing around in the Orthoverse as a user rather than developing it as a developer is you start noticing the problems. And so one of the problems I've noticed is that when I'm saving, well, actually not when I'm saving, when I'm loading a level, sometimes I accidentally hit save instead, and that is really frustrating because you end up overwriting all the work that you've done. So I think I'm going to have to improve, because at the moment you save with the buttons 1 to 7, and you load a world by hitting shift and then pressing buttons 1 to 7. And really, if you want to load a world, the last thing you want to do is save to it. So I think there needs to be a double check when you save that it says, are you sure you want to save? But we'll worry about that. It's not a huge problem. We'll worry about that a bit in the future. And actually, one thing I do want to demonstrate is that if we the link that used to be to the DGen's guide and now goes to the user's guide. So you can actually go to the user's guide from the game, which I think is kind of handy, and it explains the game, how to navigate the menus, things that you may have overlooked, like setting your render distance lower if you have problems with the speed of your computer. Let's say its memory is pretty low. Explanation of what you can see in the window, and then the controls. And for a game, there aren't that many actually, and people who've played these kind of games will be pretty familiar with the WASD moving around. Plus you can rebind the keybinds, so if you prefer using IJKL, for example, you can reset that. It's all flexible. And then there's an explanation of building, and that one is a bit trickier, but after a while I found that it actually becomes quite intuitive. So using the mouse button to scroll up and down these slots where you have blocks that you've mined, and then placing them with right click, turns out to be a very, very simple way of building, and yet a very effective one. And that brings me to something about the Orthoverse, which is that as far as I'm aware at the moment, it's the only metaverse-like system where you can actually build within the world. And to me that's really important, so I don't know why the other ones aren't as focused on it. If you take, for example, the Sandbox NFT land metaverse project, you need to download a piece of software to build the world for your particular land, and then you need to upload it, and the software is only available for Windows, so I found that particularly disappointing, because I did buy a Sandbox token not early on that I am still in profit. They've all gone down massively, but early on enough that I'm not gutted by the vast quantity of money that I've lost on it. And that actually leads me to another issue that I have with all of these kind of NFT games and NFT metaverses, which is that they seem to go out of their way to turn everything into an NFT. And when I look at that, this is surely not done for the sake of the user. If you have a system where you have to buy a land NFT, and then it turns out that in order to be able to go in and see the world and actually start participating in it, you have to buy an alpha pass and then a beta pass. And when there are lots and lots of NFTs representing objects in the game, it just feels like a bit of a cash grab. I was a bit annoyed about the Sandbox because I bought the land token thinking that it would allow me to actually go and have a look and actively participate. And then this was November the year before last, and then it turned out around about that Christmas that no, you needed to spend yet more money buying one of these alpha passes, or you could put in a lot of time to try and win one. And I don't know about you, but I just think that's greedy. There has to be a justification for there being an NFT, and a lot of the skeptics when it comes to Web3 gaming rightly point out that a lot of the most significant NFTs are very, very expensive, stupidly expensive in some cases. We're talking about 6 or even 7 figure, well, maybe not 7 figure anymore, but certainly 6 figure sums, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they're right to be skeptical about that, but I think what they're missing is that when the stuff comes along in its early days, then, and there's a lot of cash floating around, then indeed the price for these things is going to be high. And I don't know about you, but if I had the opportunity to sell 10,000 items for $50,000 each, or to sell them for $5,000, I would go for the $50,000. I would not be devastated if Orthoverse tokens cost $50,000 a piece. As it happens, they cost $3 or $4, and I'm also fine with that, because in the long run, that's the kind of pricing that I think we're going to see for these things. When there are only a few high-profile projects and a lot of people interested in them, then you have the supply and demand curve, and because the demand is higher than the supply, the price goes up until eventually most of us are priced out. Now, jumping on that and saying, aha, Web3 games are doomed because they are just going to be too expensive for the ordinary person, well, that's the early days. When you have 10,000 games, then you'll find, I imagine, that the price will settle down to something similar to what people are willing to pay for ordinary games. So if somewhere between $5 and maybe $20 to $30, maybe a bit more if it's a really high quality, very expensive studio game. And similarly, if it's a free to play game, then the items that are sold within it have to start off at a matter of a few dollars, maybe 5 or 10, because that's something that people can spend money on a whim. They wouldn't function if you immediately had to go in and drop $500 to play. So I think it's worth keeping in mind that this is early days, and that's why we're seeing some odd stuff at the beginning. Similarly, with play-to-earn games completely imploding in the last half year because their economies were not sustainable. Again, people are just experimenting, trying things out. I don't think that the Axie Infinity guys really thought through the fact that what they had was relying on the mechanics of a Ponzi scheme, and that the play-to-earn, you can't pay out more than you bring in. So either you have to get sponsors and advertising to bring in money that you can then hand out to players, or you need to bring in more players in order to be able to pay the earlier players more than they brought in. And of course, the latter case, in hindsight, is obvious. That's not sustainable. You cannot, it's like a pyramid scheme. You can't just have more and more people joining to pay for the earlier ones. At some point, everybody on Earth is playing the game, and then that means the last people to join are not going to get paid unless you can sucker in aliens from Alpha Centauri. So I think I should go back to the game. So there we had a little chat about the future of NFT games. I'm still cautiously optimistic about it. It's just going to take longer than I thought it would, which is not surprising because I first started talking about blockchain and games in 2016, and I wasn't even talking about NFTs at that point. I think my first video on blockchain and games was from around about winter 2016. Anyway, we've got more people here now than we did to start with. We're at 9 views and 4 concurrent views, so I've lost 3. I may wonder what I did there. And Leos said, impressive build, looks lovely. Well, thank you. It just a little bit of work every now and again, and then you find that it just kind of it just snowballs. It just you improve your technique. You get a clear idea of what you want to make. So Jazz S says, can you check Hexcoin? It's a scam. I did have a look at Hex, and I didn't bother digging much further because if I remember rightly, the guy behind it, Richard Hart, seems to just make videos of him going into Louis Vuitton and other expensive luxury brand stores and buying lots of stuff. And to me, that's just a red flag. It's kind of, if you have come up with something brilliant, then surely you should not market it in a that kind of way. It just, you're signaling that you're managing to extract a lot of wealth from it yourself, and it seems that there are lots of naive people out there who see a guy smoking cigars and driving Lamborghinis, or a guy walking around dressed in garish expensive clothes with lots and lots of expensive shopping bags, and think, if I do what he says, I might end up like that too. And that's how these people function. So maybe it isn't technically a scam, but I really don't want to waste time digging into it. There's plenty of serious projects out there that I would much rather spend my time on, and too many are sensible ones, to be honest, for me to look into any of them in detail anymore. I mean, I'd like to have more time to look at Polkadot a bit more. I've been looking at Concordium recently. I'd like to actually get to grips with Algorand a bit better. So, and I did have a look at Cardano about half a year ago. And these are the kind of things where, there actually seems to be something behind it. It's just that we've seen a lot of bifurcation in blockchains. There's so many of them, and it's really hard to work out exactly what their selling point is that makes them so much better than Ethereum or Bitcoin. And I'd have to think that even Bitcoin hasn't really... I mean, it's come a long way recently, actually. People are tacking stuff onto it that is starting to give it some of the functionality of Ethereum, actually. But at the moment, I'm still mainly involved with Ethereum. It's just one of the more interesting ones for a developer than Bitcoin, in that you can actually do a lot more. But it's still early days, right? I mean, we're still seeing stuff, people coming up with stuff all the time. And now I'm going to go and build a wall. So one interesting thing I discovered is that, so here's the boundary of my land, and I'm in Fanguinina, and then if I step over here, I'm in Isvetico, and I can no longer build. Or can I? This is where you need to have the mindset of a test engineer. And if I go here, I can... Let's make sure I don't mess this up. I can place a block. See that? There we go. Now, I shouldn't be able to, because that block is on the owner of Isvetico. And I can't even remember how I found this out. The funny thing is, I can place the block. I'm now desperately clicking left mouse, which is supposed to remove it. I can't remove it anymore. So I can place blocks against my own block on somebody else's land, but I can only do it a distance of 1 out, so I can't go over here and place a block against that. I'm now clicking right click madly and it's not placing one. But what I can do is I can place a block against a block on my land in somebody else's land. So I thought that was quite interesting, actually. But of course, they are the only ones now who can come along and remove it. And I have no idea who owns Isvetico. I can look up the Ethereum address. But yeah, so these are the kind of quirks that that you find out when you start investigating these things. I remember I was playing a ZX Spectrum game called The Hobbit. It was an adventure game written in the early 80s, and it was quite a remarkable one because you could type things in a very English sounding way. So for 1983, this was pretty radical stuff. Now, of course, you can go to ChatGPT and type in a whole question that gives you a sensible answer. I mean, The Hobbit was really simple, kind of open door, give map to Gandalf, things like that. And what I discovered accidentally, I wanted to open a door, and so I typed open door and hit enter, and it said the door is locked. And then what I wanted to do was break the door, but instead of typing break door, I pressed enter too quickly, so I ended up entering break do, D-O. And I got the message that you swing at the door, but the door jumps aside and avoids your blow. And I thought, well, that's a bit strange. So I tried break do again. It turned out that you could destroy anything in the adventure game if you tried to open it and it wasn't openable, and then you type break do. Then you just had to repeat it over and over again, and you would kill or destroy whatever it was. So I ended up going through the entire game and killing everything from Thorin and Gandalf through to the Vicious Warg, right through to Smaug at the end of the game. And then I realized that I'd actually spoilt the entire thing for me because I hadn't solved any of the puzzles. I just rampaged through it like a barbarian, destroying everything. And of course, that's the kind of bug that a software developer will overlook, because who on earth is going to think of typing something like that into the game? But if your game is popular enough, then somebody is going to find these kind of things. I think Linus Torvalds said that all bugs are shallow given enough eyeballs, and the same is true for testing and exploits, which is all bugs are eventually found given enough eyeballs, and therefore all exploits are eventually found. And it may be that if there's a vulnerability in a software system, that one person will not find it. But if there are 100,000 or 1 million of them looking at it, then it's just so much more likely that somebody will find the issue. And if you're unlucky, they'll be malevolent and they'll exploit it. Right, so my plan here, I haven't got the winged boots on. My plan here is to eventually build a wall around the entire kingdom of Fangwanina, so that the only entry points are going to be gates in the north, south, east and west. Oh, I see Tom Rao has joined. Good evening to you too, Tom. And let's have a quick scan and see. No questions from anybody, so people are just here listening to me babbling on about what I'm going to do in the Orthoverse. Right, so yeah, so the plan here is to use the various blocks at my disposal, not like that, and build a wall all the way around the kingdom. And that even means that I could technically block people out of the kingdom. I could go down and I could, if I have a wall all the way around it, where's it gone? There. I could just fill this up with blocks and then go to my gate. Where are we? Through the village. Go to the gate, block this up too, and if the wall goes all the way around, we end up with a world that nobody can enter. But I mean, who wants to do that? By the way, if you are thinking, let's see, is anybody in here? We've got the other guy and Feral Fall. So just 2 people. At some point, I'm hoping there'll be enough people following these streams that we can get a significant number of players in at the same time, and we can have what the other guy called a crash party, which is we try to get enough people on to see how long it takes before everything gets laggy and then before the actual world crashes. At the moment, I've got a hard limit on how many people can join of 12, which I know does not sound fantastic, but you've got to start off small and scale from there. Right, so anyway, let's just build that wall a little bit further. So you see, it's not that hard to design a game with in-game building, and I don't really know why more of the projects out there haven't done that. Right, Infotrix is in his land, he says. Well, maybe you can tell us what the name of the land is, and I can see if I can find it. Is building working for you, Infotrix? Can you actually go to your land and build? Because I gave a token to my 3rd oldest son, and when he went to the land, he could see the build bar, the thing at the bottom of the screen, which I'm now rolling the cursor back and forth over. So he could see that, but he couldn't dig, and I've got to work out why that is. And we probably need a way for people to report bugs in the Orthoverse when if they find them, because I don't think there is a good automated system at the moment. Right, so if we have this world like that, now I've got 2 choices when I'm building this wall. I could either make it 2 higher, because the wall is 4 here, or I could chop out chunks of this hill and have it so that it's hard to decide. Do I edit the hill? What do you guys think? Do I edit the hill, or do I make the wall go up over the hill? What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to think about that while I go and visit Penorbadel. So if we go here to orthoverse.io, this is the companion site to orthoverse.land. So orthoverse.land is the sort of proto-metaverse world, and orthoverse.io is the blockchain NFT side of things. So we can... Oh look, I haven't actually revealed the token associated with my address. So I can actually demonstrate the revealing of a token. And I should probably explain why we call it revealing. So in a normal NFT project, you mint an NFT. And what that means is you're adding another row to the blockchain equivalent of a database that says, here's a new token and here's the owner. And we use the term minting for that because it sounds nice. Now, the thing with the Orthoverse is that every Ethereum address actually already has its token. It's just that it's not compliant with any of the token standards. So it's not ERC 721 or ERC 1155 compliant. And the reason for that is that there hasn't been a notification on the blockchain that the token exists. And to send such a notification costs somewhere between 50 cents and $1.50. Can be as high as $2 or $3 if the gas price is high on Ethereum. And so I can't afford to send that transaction 1.5 times 10 to the 48 times because that would just be stupid. That's a very large number. I can't even do it for every single address that is currently in use on Ethereum, so we just have it here, and we came up with the term reveal your NFT because your NFT actually exists. But from a marketing perspective, that was a mistake. We should have just said mint your NFT. In fact, we should probably change the wording on Orthoverse.io. Just scrap the whole idea of the reveal thing because it's too technical and it just puts people off. We can have a technical article that explains why you actually already have your token, why the phrase to use should probably be reveal rather than mint. But for your sort of rank and file ordinary NFT enthusiast, we should just use familiar language and go with mint your NFT. And this is a problem that I think technical people in general have, and I fall into the category of one of those, is that we want to be technically accurate with what it is that we're talking about, so we don't feel comfortable using a term incorrectly, and as a result we often use wording to communicate with non-technical people that just confuses and turns off the non-technical. And that's exactly what myself and the other guy have done here, because he's technical too. On the plus side, these kind of things can be corrected. So make a note, the other guy, we need to change reveal your NFT to mint your NFT and just give up on the whole trying to educate people about how NFTs are recorded on the blockchain. We can keep that as a separate story for people who really are interested and get involved. Right, yeah, so I tell you what, I'll go and do that. I'm going to reveal an NFT, mint an NFT, live on camera. Let's frame right. Let's see. Let's switch to there. So I'm going to do that now. Reveal your NFT. Click. So it's as simple as this. I get a transaction that I need to sign. I'm going to see the price is going to be about $2.74. I hit confirm, and that's it. It's as simple as that. And that means that the Orthoverse land of Denny Gianelli. It's not the greatest name, is it? Anyway, the Orthoverse land of Denny Gianelli has now come into existence, and in the next scraping run of the Orthoverse.land, it'll appear on the map, and then after that, eventually it'll get locked down. In fact, I should talk a bit about that later on in this, but let's see, do I have enough to upgrade it one level? It looks like I do. Yeah, I've got more than enough. Gosh, look at that. I've got nearly I've got $162 of ETH. Wow. I should go and do something significant with that. Anyway, so I'm going to upgrade to level 1 now, and that is going to cost 0.008 ETH. So we're getting a bit more expensive now, $13. And we'll confirm that. And you'll see very shortly what happens. Or maybe not so shortly, because yeah, there we go. I've now got a tower. So my token has now gone from level 0 to level 1, that gives me 1 save slot for Denny Ginelli, and I can even go and upgrade to level 2, but you'll see now the price is 0.016 and a bit ETH. So before it was 0.008, and then yeah, it keeps doubling. So it'll be 0.032 to level it to level 3 and so on, and that means that in total to get up to level 7 you can end up spending an ETH. So most people won't bother doing that. That's a lot of money to spend, but some people have. You know, there are some people who seem to have a surprising amount of spare cash kicking around to spend on crypto. You know, and who knows, maybe it'll pay off for them. But the Orthoverse is doomed, so probably not. So yes, the other guys just commented, noted to my comment that we should change the term reveal to mint, and he's also suggested we get rid of the quintillion reference. So in the early days we talked about how we'd minted over a quintillion tokens, but again, that kind of thing only appeals to a small number of people, and so it's a technical person thinking something's interesting, and the average person is just going to go, what the hell are they talking about? I'm going to go somewhere else where things make more sense. I'm going to take a little break to drink some water. It's important to keep hydrated. Right, so you know what? Should I upgrade to level 3? I would let you guys have a vote on it, but the answer you're going to give me is, yeah, of course, go on, because it's always fun to watch somebody else spend their money. Let's do it. Let's see if I have enough. It's confirm. Of course, because the other guy and myself and a lawyer in Germany own the company that now owns the shareholders in the company that now owns the Orthoverse. What I'm doing here really is I'm sending about half of my ETH to the other guy by doing this, and half of it back to myself. So I imagine the other guy will be going, yeah, go on, level it up, because I'm giving him money. Or rather, I'm giving the company money, and half of that is his. So it makes it easier for me to spend, though, than it is otherwise. So I'm at level 3 now, and I've got a really good castle, and that gives me 3 save slots. So you see, actually, the Web3 interface stuff is really simple. I mean, online banking is harder than this. All right, let's go on. One more level. Do I even have enough? There we go. There. Leos Stelik says, shall I upgrade my land to level 4? Well, yes, of course you should level your land up to 4 or 5 or 6 or even 7. What have you got to lose? I mean, the Orthoverse is doomed. So you've got to spend your money on something. At least this way it goes to a good cause, namely the furthering of the demise of the Orthoverse in the long run. Right, there we are. I'm up to level 4. So you see again 0.064, and the extra bit on the end is going to be the gas. Okay, Tom Roa has said that when I enter the henge, the screen goes orange and nothing happens. That probably means that either your network connection or your computer is too slow, and the orange indicates that you've probably teleported into the ground. You should try and hit H, which should take you back to where you started, and then try again. Give it a few goes, and if it still doesn't work, let me know, and maybe I can walk you through it. We're getting bored, I bet, of watching me looking at the fact that I have a level 3. It's only a level 3 one, not a level 4. What was I saying? Anyway, back to... No, I'm not back to the Orthoverse. The whole point of this was not to spend $50 on leveling up a token. It was to go to the map and then look up where Pen Orbdell is. Pen Orbdell. No, that's not. pen orbdel. Okay, so Tom says that his computer is rather fast, rest assured. So he should be fine. Tom, are you using Chrome, which is what it works best on, or Firefox, which it doesn't work so well on? And should we really... Well, I guess this is as good a place as any to debug this stuff. Right, so there's pen orbdel. It's been flipped, and this is great because it gives me an opportunity to talk about flipping and futuristic tiles. So when the other guy and I started building the Orthoverse, we were having a debate about whether it should be a science fiction based world or a fantasy based world, and we couldn't decide. And then we thought, well, why not do both? Some of my favorite science fiction and fantasy books are actually set in both kinds of worlds, and so we came up with the idea that you can flip your token from fantasy, i.e. medieval, to futuristic and back again. And it looks like Infotrix has done just that. Right, and I've just read that Leos has upgraded his kingdom of Semijanance to level 4. So, see the other guy? I'm leading by example, and as a result we are making profits. And this time next year we'll be multimillionaires. Or not. Anyway, so that's where pen orbdel is, and it looks like it is on the south east island to the north, just round this big lake. So I'm going to now try and do a speed run there. Let's see how quickly I can get there, and also see if I have the problem that Tom was having with regard to getting through the henge. So there we go. No, I don't want to go north, I want to go south. So after a while you can get quite good at zooming through the Orthoverse. You start building up a familiarity with things. Oh gosh, we've got a whole bunch of people around there. Let's go and say hi to them first. So we've got Nitikir, and I think there was somebody actually in the henge, or did I? Yes, there we go. And Killat mode, and Nitikir's there, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do, maybe that's why we're getting the orange thing, Tom. Maybe that. Oh, there we all are. So it's possible that the issue is that there are 4 people in the Orthoverse. I think the most we've ever had is 6 or 7. So it may be having difficulty teleporting because the server is... We haven't bought the most... Let's put it this way. We haven't bought the most expensive server there is in order to run this stuff. So it could be that it's just that. Anyway, Tom Mariah says, when I switch to third-person mode, the controls are reversed. Well, third-person mode is something that I hacked together, and your mouse, if you move your mouse left and right, it orbits around your character, which then eventually spins to look in that direction. If you move your mouse, so moving your mouse up and down, it changes whether you're looking at the over the shoulder of the character or at its face or from behind, and then moving your mouse to the right and the left rotates you. So for example, if you pull your mouse right down and then move right and left, you're kind of standing behind your character. And if you push your mouse right up northwards, what am I doing? There we go. Then you end up kind of, it's like you're walking backwards with a camera filming your character. But the 3D mode is, it's more for screenshots. It's not convenient to be walking around in third-person mode. It's not practical. So it allows you to look around, allows you to get a nice group picture. Maybe we should actually do that. Where do we... no, that didn't work. They've changed the screenshot method in Ubuntu 22.04 from what it was for 20.04. And I don't like change when these kind of things. I know it's just developers thinking that it's better, but they've got to balance the difference between better and familiar. Microsoft is terrible at this. It's like every time they released Word for years, they would just randomly move things from one menu to another when they go, well, we should not have put that item in that menu. We'll put it in the menu that's more sensible, which is great for newcomers, but for people who were familiar with the fact that it was in a strange place, you just keep going to the wrong place because you built up patterns of behavior. Right, so I'm going to go back to first person view. Tom's got a lot of questions tonight. So Tom Rower has asked, where can I change my name? Well, that is coming. We are working on the avatar designer, which will allow you to make to customize your character, because at the moment we have you'll notice everyone's wearing the same cape, and that is so that'll go. You'll choose whether or not you wear a cape, and you can wear a cape if you own a land, and the cape will have your land shield. So if we go up to this part here, that shield, you'll be able to customize your character's appearance, and that's where you'll be able to set your name to, except you're not going to be able to set your name to a name that's already taken. So nobody will be able to call themselves BC Gandalf, and that's where, but I think we're about 2 to 4 weeks away from launching that. So JC's asking, how do I find out my name in the game? Well, I can, what you can do is you can press P and see the names of all the other characters, and then, JC, it's one of these ones. But I don't know which one. The other way is to actually go and inspect the variable stored in your browser. You can hit Control-Shift-I, go to Application, go to Local Storage, and it'll show you your name there. But that is not the most practical way. Oh, actually, yes. The other guys just pointed out that the way to you can see your own name is to go into the third person by pressing O, and you'll just see it above your head. I'm an idiot. I've just been doing that for the last 10 minutes, and then I go and give a really complicated way of how you can view your own name. So that's the easy way. Right, where were we going? We were going to go to... I'm going to leave this crowd. Feel free to follow me. This will probably test the server a bit. I need to head southeast, and so there's south. So we're looking to go. Where's the teleporter? That's the south teleportal. So the southeast one is here, and go to the southeast island. Fingers crossed. Did it work? Yes. So Tom, that's what it's supposed to look like when you teleport. And then I needed to go north, but in an easterly direction without going through the teleporter. So let's leave carefully. And I'm going to go and visit Infotrix's land. Right. Okay, so here we can see there's the start of that big lake. So what we know is it's going to be along the edge of this lake up on the northeast side. There's a pond in the way. I don't like walking through water, it's so slow. Right, what I do like is zooming through the trees, because it reminds me of the Forest of Endor from Return of the Jedi, and they're on their little scooter bike. Up! Attempted to read beyond the bounds of the managed data. Please reload the page. Well, that's an achievement. I've managed yet again to crash the Orthoverse online. Now, I muck around in this for about probably half an hour to possibly even an hour a day in the evening when I want to unwind, and I haven't managed to crash it all week, and now I have. Typical. Of course, it always happens live. Right, let's try a reload. So I think this may be a problem with saving. Now the good news is that the saves are stored on the server, so you don't lose them. Let's go through this again. Right. Okay, so I'm okay. Now that's odd. I wonder if anybody else got that. So Ilframize. I'm now in Ilframize. Let's go and look where that is. This keyboard, by the way, is terrible. But at least it's fairly silent. No, I'm not finding Ilframize. Illiframize. That's better. Illiframize. So that is here. Well, we're just south, apparently, of where I want to be, which is this Penorbdil. So I'm here. I should have just continued on, but why am I... Oh, that's the lake to the west. I got my north and west mixed up. Right, so all I have to do to visit Infratrix's land and is here. Right. Hooray! So this is a futuristic token, and if you flip your token, it takes a while for the server to pick up on it, and the map does it quicker. So if we go back to orthoverse.io, scroll down here, reveal your NFT. So you'll see there's an option, flip realm, and it's in the sci-fi effect button rather than the sort of gold looking buttons for the fantasy version. And if I was to hit that for a mere 0.001 ETH, which plus gas, in fact, if you look at that, it's 0.001 ETH for the flipping cost, and it's 0.0006 in gas. So we're looking at 99 cents for the gas and $1.66 for the flipping. This gives you an indication of the expense, doesn't it? Right? It doesn't make sense to have $1 or $2 transactions when it costs you $1 or $2 in gas to execute the transactions. So hopefully at some point in the not too distant future, the Ethereum team will get the sharding and stuff sorted out, and then this cost will go down. But then again, if it goes down too much, then the miners, well, the validators don't make enough money. So why would they want to validate? I guess at the moment their ether, their 32 ETH stake is locked up and they can't get it out. So maybe that was a clever move. Shall I go ahead and flip? Yeah, what the hell? It's let's spend the cost of a cheap cup of coffee on doing that. There we go. So this is flipping. It's going to cost me $2.60, of which $1.66 will go to the Orthoverse, and $1 will be mostly burnt by the Ethereum chain, thereby making all the major holders of Ether slightly richer, because that means the supply is being reduced. So that should have an effect on the price. It's taking a while for it to read the... There we go. Right, so that's what it looks like in science fiction manner now. So in science fiction you have a or futuristic, you have this hangar that gets built, and if you spend enough, then you actually end up with a large rocket on top of your thing. I wonder if maybe I can find a rocket. Does anybody? No, those, you can see there's little clusters of futuristic cities here and there. I quite like the way they've ended up grouped together for some reason. Here we go, look. Yeah. Eventually you end up with your own rocket on top of the hangar. It's meant to be a sort of spaceport, because that seems suitably science fiction-y. Right, anyway. Back to, where was I? Oh. Hey, while I was talking and flipping my token from fantasy to futuristic, Infratrix had gone to the land that I'm on, Penorbdil, and used their building ability to dig a hole and have me fall into it. Yeah. So, hang on. So that's Ken then. Right. Well, hello. Yeah, there's a neat artifact. The labels over people's heads under certain circumstances work like X-ray vision and allow people to see through blocks, which is a shame because there could be secret. In fact, there are in Fangwanina. There are secret caves. If you look carefully enough, you can find some. I think it's kind of fun to build things that aren't immediately revealed, and then hopefully people over time will discover them, and it just adds a little bit of extra spice, a little bit of interest to the world that you're dealing with. But yeah, anyway, so that wasn't too hard to get to, was it? That world took hardly any time at all. But I am looking into a means for making it easier for people to travel to various lands. So initially we had this idea that you should have lands closer to the entry point, and then those would become more valuable. And then the further out lands are, the less valuable they would be because you have to walk for a long time to get there. Then it struck me that if it takes 20 minutes to walk to a land at the edge of the world, nobody's going to want to do that. So we created the henges with teleportals. But I think there needs to be slightly more access. I mean, people are going to go and examine the tokens, the lands around the henges more often anyway. But I'm looking into having an alternate dimension, a shadow Orthoverse, which where for every block that you walk in that, you're moving the equivalent of 16 blocks in the the Orthoverse proper world, and then you can teleport back to the proper world. So kind of have it as a sort of transport system, but it's a work in progress. I'm thinking about that. So Infratrix was asking, would you be stuck if I buried you? Well, yes and no. I would be stuck until I remembered that if I hit the H key, I teleport back to the author henge. So I would initially be stuck. That's why I made the teleport key, because it is possible to get stuck. So Tom is saying my land is at the armpit of the universe. I am almost the farthest away from the author henge. Yep. Well, somebody has to be. And the thing here is that as more people mint tokens, then people who currently feel like they're on the edge of everything will find out that they're actually surprisingly close. Because if we go to the map here, these look like islands at the moment. Eventually, when all 10,000 are revealed, this will be mainly land with a lot of lakes in it rather than islands with sea. And to be honest, I'm going to kind of miss the fact that it's islands in a sea when that happens. But that is what's going to happen, and that's kind of how we've set it all up. So you eventually it'll just be, and there will be more lakes in the center area and less as you go out by the time you get around here. But then at the very edge there's going to be something, there actually is something interesting. I'll give you guys a little hint. Try, if you've got spare time, or if you are John Rigler and you have a D-size battery and a keyboard that you can fit that on, and you can drop it on your walk key, try traveling to the very edge of the world, because there's something odd there that it's kind of amusing to see. Anyway, so we're kind of getting to the end of this stream, and it's been a different one, I think, to the last one. A bit more casual after the initial rant about NFT projects out there just trying to flog more and more NFTs and not thinking about the users. So having a land token and then artifacts tokens and access passes and stuff like that. And it's just milking these systems for what they can get. And I think it's very short-sighted. So we promise at the Orthoverse that any NFT or any blockchain functionality that is added will actually have a justification beyond making us lots of money, because we're not making lots of money at the moment. That's for sure. This is not the world's most profitable blockchain. In fact, it's probably the least profitable blockchain project that has been going for more than a year, I would say. Most of them by now would have either fizzled out or become incredibly rich. But that's the Orthoverse. We do everything slightly differently. Right. Anyway, Paul Zago says, thank you for your hard work. Thinkler, well, thank you for saying thank you. It's good to be appreciated. To be honest, I'm kind of compelled to do these kind of things, try and learn about things and then communicate it to other people. So it's just like a habit that I built up over time. And what else have we got in the comments? You probably encounter God eating marinated garlic, says Tom. I guess he's wondering what might be at the edge of the Orthoverse. Well, we can have a look, can't we? Look at that. Let's see. At the edge of the... what do we have there? Oh, it's a snail. You're not going to see that there. That's just floating out there in space. But let me put it this way. If you walk to the edges of the world, unless you pick exactly the right spot, you're going to think, well, yeah, that's not that interesting really, but at least now I know what's at the edge. If you pick the right spot, then you'll find something unusual. But it will take a long time to find it because you don't know where to look. Right. So Paolo Zago saying search to Moon Sama for collab with Orthoverse. Well, you can have a look. I'll try to remember that. What I am going to do now, though, is wrap up. So I want to thank you all for joining. It was quite fun, actually, for us all to be jumping around in the middle of the henge for a while. Oh, and there are still people jumping around together. We're having jump around competition. What happened here? Okay, that's not looking good, is it? Is that what they're jumping about? Yeah, I've seen this before. Sometimes the save goes wrong and you end up with this effect. Yeah. So the good news is that it can be fixed, but I will have to make a note. I don't have a pen here. Yeah, I'll have to make a note to, oh, and I'll have this video to remind me to go to the server and fix this. And I have no idea why it happens, but it's a mess, isn't it? Oh, yeah. So you can fix this manually by placing blocks in the empty space. There we go. Yeah, this is a save error, and well, it's actually kind of good that this has happened because it's happened to me once before, and I worked out how to fix it. Maybe I'll have some more logs this time. That'll give me a better clue as to what happened. They're having fun there, sort of bouncing around. The other neat thing it does is it shows you that futuristic tiles, the Orthoverse starts with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 levels of dirt and granite, and then you get to the mineable parts, which in the futuristic ones are various colors of concrete blocks. So there you can see all the colors, and you can mine these and take them to a fantasy one and build something out of those if you really want to. There's nothing stopping you from taking futuristic blocks and moving them to fantasy, or fantasy blocks and moving them to futuristic. So maybe we'll see some interesting mashups. But yes, this is a bit of a mess, and I'll need to work out. I could fix this fairly quickly, and then at some point in the future, hopefully I'll even work out what the problem is. Right, so here we can see an example actually of the fact that if a staircase hadn't been made here, I'd be teleporting back to the author henge to get out of this pit that Infotrix made. Yeah, so right, I'm a minute over now, and I do have to wrap up because it is now midnight here and I need to go to bed. But thank you all guys for joining. Feel free to continue to hang out in the Orthoverse and find other bugs like the one that was just discovered, or maybe you'll discover fun Easter eggs. There are a few hidden around here and there, but they're not easy to find. And hopefully I'll see you all next Saturday, same time, same place. Well, not quite the same place, because hopefully we won't all be in a multicolored invisibility pit. That's it. Bye for now. Be alive with your intellectual rigor.